Morning, sir. How are you?
Solid, man. It's winter here in Canada, so you're starting to have to get your lawn johns on and salt to make sure people don't wipe out on your walkway, snowblower going.
That's it, dude. Long johns all year round. I used to be rocking them Colorado long johns. I haven't worn a pair in a long time, though, I have to say. It's been a nice shift going to Portugal.
Well, I don't, yeah, well, Portugal, I'd love, that'd be great. I mean, I don't know if I told you, I speak Portuguese, right? So.
Oh, no, you didn't tell me that. Let's go.
Yeah, De Mello is, my parents immigrated from the Azores, you know, the little islands.
Yeah.
So we came to Canada in the 60s. And so, yeah. So I've been to Lisbon and I'm able to converse, but it's more like street language. So fun.
Better than what I've got. I haven't had the chance to dive into yet. Hey, Artem.
Artem, nice to meet you.
Hi, hello guys.
Where are you calling in from today, sir?
Yeah, looking for an interesting presentation. Yeah, actually, just start learn token engineering for myself. So it's
cool. Where are you
exciting.
based, Artem? Where are you calling in from?
Oh, I'm Russian, but just now reside in Middle East.
Cool. Well, welcome. Hey, Darren.
Yeah.
Hey, Maximilian. Morning, Darren. How you feeling today, sir?
Feeling great. Yeah, I was hanging out with Sean yesterday.
Oh, that's cool. Are you guys based near each other normally, or was it kind of up and
Yeah, we live like down the street from each other.
Oh, that's awesome. Really fun. Maximilian, can you hear us? Hey, Sean.
Darren.
Now it's working, everyone.
There we go. Sounds like Sean, you're running the vacuum cleaner. Just to get things, clean. What's going on, Maximilian? How was your weekend, sir?
Yeah, it was good. On Saturday, I am a little bit too young, let's say, for that generation, but sometimes when I was younger, you just go to a friend's house, ring the doorbell, see if someone's home. And I did that on Saturday with a bunch of friends, and some were home. So it was really nice. I just kind of rang the doorbell. They were just getting out of bed. So I kind of surprised them. They're like, "What are you doing here?" I was like, "Just hanging out. Maybe you want to hang out." So we did a whole day of kind of hanging out, and that was really awesome. So I had a very social, revitalizing weekend in that way.
That's great, bro. Yeah, I love those drive-by visits. It's not it's a culturally common of a thing, but it's quite a nice surprise because no one expects it. And if people can take it well, good to mix up the life a little bit. We'll give people a few minutes to join. I know Sean was having audio troubles. It took people till like 5 or 7 minutes past. We had about 12 folks last time, and then we record this session and we'll publish it to YouTube next Monday probably. So folks who didn't watch it can get a chance to see it again. And yeah, man. Morgan, what's going on, sir? How you doing today?
Pretty good. How's it going?
Yeah, hanging out, having fun. Excited to geek out with Mike and Darren and Sean in a sec. Rudy, GM, how's it today in New York, sir?
Hey, doing good. How are y'all?
Excellent.
Solid. Any soccer fans in the group? So
Oh, I'm a big football fan, man. Although I've got nowhere to watch it at the moment.
the Netherlands is on right now. They're 4 minutes into the game.
Last I heard was that the US was destroying Iran, but I think they were talking about football, I hope.
That was England. England.
England. I got my wires crossed.
Yeah.
Same.
I get confused about who I am.
About all the colonial powers.
They won 6-1 this morning.
Jeez, that's mental. 6-1.
They're scoring a lot of goals.
Morgan, what project are you from? I don't know if we've had a chance to meet yet. Curious to just get a quick hello from you. Also, Artem, feel free to say hey. Let us know a bit while we're waiting folks to join.
I am with Better, and I'm in the founder circle under storytelling, ReFi storytelling.
Cool, awesome, man. Well, it's good to meet
Yeah.
you. Where are you calling in from?
Southern California, Orange County.
Cool. Appreciate the 8 a.m. start. Hey, Anna Maria. Going on, friend? Cool. Well, I'm not sure if Sean's gonna join us. I know he was having some troubles, but Mike, did either you or Darren want to kick us off with just like a quick 5-minute setting the stage in terms of what you guys do at Longtail Financial, just to get the conversation flowing, and then we can open it up to just kind of questions to the group. Is that something you guys are up for?
Yeah, sure. Darren, do you want to start or?
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear Mike's take on more of the like his journey, because so I met Sean last year. We're both based here in the west coast of British Columbia, and we have really beautiful forests here, old growth forests, and unfortunately they're still getting cut down. So I actually met Sean through somebody I was working with at Grassroots Economics, which is a ReFi project that builds community currencies. Somebody I was working with there connected me with Sean. He's like, oh, he's like really cool guy. He has this token engineering company, Longtail Financial. You should connect with him. So I met Sean, and we connected, and we started working on this startup to like basically protect the forest, old growth forests. And so that's turned into one of the projects that we're both involved with called Sentry. And it's basically turning conservation and stewardship of old growth forests into an investment. And it uses NFTs and some Web3 ReFi primitives. But yeah, and then so I've been kind of getting into token engineering ever since then. And it's really fascinating, because it's really it's like the newest field of engineering, and it's the one that is most relevant to Web3, and it's really fertile ground. And it's, I think, something that like we all need to be doing more, is just like thinking about just the mechanism design, like how can we achieve our goals through these Web3 primitives. But yeah, I would love to hear from Mike and Sean.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the quick intro. I'll set the stage now that Sean's here a little bit. Sean, welcome, sir. Can we hear you? Are you good on AV now?
Hey, good morning, everyone. How does this sound?
Sounds great. Looks great. Love
Awesome.
the sticky notes on the wall. Just quickly, today is second week of office hours. We're running a cohort, bringing a bunch of founders across the climate and crypto landscape to hang out in these little circles, drawn by shared mission or interest to use this powerful tech to make the world a better place. So Rudy, Artem, Morgan, Alejandro, Ana Maria, and Jeremy, and myself are all founders in this current circle. And office hours is just a place for founders in the space to meet really cool service providers like Longtail Financial. We had Common Stack last week. Hear a little bit about what you guys are doing and the problem area in which you provide expertise. And then it's just an open conversation. Folks can ask you guys questions about whatever you are specializing in, and we can just share ideas. So we just had Darren give a little bit of a segue in terms of how you and he met, but I'd love to just pass it over, I think, Darren, to either Sean or Mike to let us know a little bit more about what is Longtail Financial, what are the services you guys provide, and how do you approach mechanism design, and what are some of the stuff we can ask you about. So yeah, I'll leave it to you from here.
Awesome. I think I'll jump in and take it. Thanks, John, for that intro. Really nice to be here. Nice to meet everyone on the call. And thanks, Darren, for opening it up. So, hey, everyone. Happy to be here. I'm Sean Anderson, so founder of Longtail Financial. What is Longtail Financial? Yeah, I founded a Canadian corporation 4 years ago in 2018. I have a background in computing science and specialization in data science. And in 2016, 17, and 18, I was building trading systems. I started building automated trading systems that plug into cryptocurrency exchanges, and I was falling down the rabbit hole of AI and machine learning. So for those 3 years, I was building trading systems and practicing how machine learning could be incorporated into that process. It led me to do a master's degree in computing science with a specialization in big data, where I got to focus on financial data science as a domain and build out trading systems on crypto exchanges, arbitrage, and what you'd call statistical arbitrage, basically market forecasting, throughout my capstone projects while doing my master's degree. So in 2018, I founded a corporation just as sort of a holdings vehicle to hold a lot of the tech that I was building to figure out what I wanted to do with it. Meanwhile, I was just building trading systems and doing some contracting, building trading systems for other teams. I continued doing that until mid 2019, where I was starting to get kind of bored of it. I imagined that I would just build these free energy machine money printing systems and live on passive income for the rest of my life. But it ended up being a lot more labor intensive than I had anticipated. There was no sort of magic algorithm that I could just leave running and walk away and know that everything was going to be fine. There was a lot of management involved and a lot of labor involved. And after about 4 years of doing that, I was getting kind of tired, and that was right when I went to the AI blockchain conference in Malta in 2019, and I met Grace Rachmani, who is an author of a book. The title, I think it's like How to DAO. It's like the book on DAO, but pretty early. I think she wrote it in 2018 or 19. Grace Rachmani is very involved in the holochain ecosystem and just a really strong voice across the DAO ecosystem. And I met her, and she told me that I need to reach out to the Common Stack with everything I was thinking and everything I was working on, and that I need to collaborate with that team. And that led me to finding Jeff Emmett online and reading his work, early stuff on bonding curves and Ostrom's principles for governing DAOs, and the whole field of token engineering. So I started reading about this concept of token engineering and saw that this was the perfect domain for me to apply what I had been practicing. I'd been building all these data consumption, financial market analysis tools, and it was like, to what end, right? Am I just going to keep building trading systems, or can I do something more meaningful and have some more purpose with this tech? And when I found token engineering, it was just the direct application of the skills that I had from a data science perspective, and wanting to understand crypto mechanisms, how blockchains work, and then get into designing the future and how we can all build together. And the whole concept of modeling and simulations from a systems engineering perspective was new to me. So it was, in fact, engineering in general was kind of new to me because my background's in pure science, right? So I started looking at crypto from an engineering perspective and this emerging field of token engineering and how data science can be applied to that. And my company that I had created just for the purpose of sort of hacking, I just wanted to hack my whole life and like collect tech and think about what I could do with it. In mid 2019, it started to become clear that there's this brand new emerging field of token engineering, and me and a small team of engineers were actually sort of at the frontier of it. We were participating in all the research groups and education groups with the Token Engineering Academy, a sort of decentralized educational institution. Really interesting. And they've just released meant to be a full sort of undergraduate level course on token engineering called the Foundations of Token Engineering, which one of our advisors has been working on with them. Octopus, I'm not sure if anyone in the call here knows Octopus, Dr. Andrew Penland, really awesome superstar across the DAO space. So all to say, in January 2020, we did a full pivot. Longtail Financial became a services company that began offering token engineering services to industry, and we started taking on clients. Mike DeMello came on about 6 months into that, I believe. He might be able to correct me on that. And Darren came on about a year ago, where we started working on really ReFi focused projects. I'm not sure if Darren got to talk about Sentry yet, but that's the big project that Darren and I have been collaborating on through Longtail Financial, and then also just through other means as well. So since January 2020, Longtail's been operating as this services provision firm, offering modeling and engineering, essentially design, modeling, and simulations, iterative process through a data science perspective to industry players. So sometimes that's companies, sometimes that's DAOs, sometimes that's sort of small research teams, and it's a nice little business. It's a small business. We're operating a small business based out of Canada. We tried really scaling up this year. We tried because we had more work coming in, and we tried to really scale. But I'm a like learning, humble entrepreneur, and it's not easy to gracefully scale. So we sort of scaled up and scaled down this year. And right now we've got a really lean, agile team that's just sort of crushing, one client at a time, making sure we can deliver the absolute highest quality service that we can, and slowly rebuilding our company. But the last thing I want to say on this is kind of a long-winded tangent. Thanks for the space to share. It's nice to see Sebnam in the chat, a very dear friend and mentor, Sebnam there, Solsista in Discord. So the last thing I wanted to say is that Longtail Financial formally, sort of legally, is just a small business operating out of Canada, but we are also at the same time very open about being a DAO hybrid. We use a lot of DAO tooling in our company. Our main treasury is a Gnosis Vault. We also have a corporate bank account, and we use those things in tangent, and we do a lot of open source development. We collaborate with a lot of open teams in the open. We build with DAOs, we build with the Common Stack, we build with the Token Engineering Commons, we build with Prime DAO, various other DAOs. And so we're exploring how we can operate in this new world of decentralization and permissionless infrastructure and open source, but also at the same time, just be a bit rooted in a little flavor of traditional business, just because we want to pay rent, right? So we're trying to balance those things out, and exploring what the permissionless, like DeFi, ReFi tooling landscape as it emerges, and the DAOing landscape as it emerges, just trying to track all that. We maintain an information hub, a knowledge hub in our Discord. We post tons of resources in there. We try to sort of curate a lot of information in there about blockchain, DAOs, solarpunk, ReFi, and then also just general science. We try to maintain an environment of open curiosity. I'll end with a quote that is very core to the thinking at Longtail Financial. It's Dr. Kenneth O'Stanley, an AI researcher, has worked at a few different universities. I believe he was on the Uber AI team for a while. He wrote a book called Why Greatness Cannot Be Planned, The Myth of the Objective. Really great book about how our society, our culture sort of obsesses with objectives, and that often you can get better results by not pursuing any particular objective, but just creating open environments of curiosity and novelty. So I'll quote him. He says, "Instead of focusing on making progress, try creating playgrounds." And we really try to foster that at Longtail Financial. We like to create environments where people can share knowledge and hack on tools and share their screens and share workflow. That's a big part of my mindset, is like sharing workflow. I like to master how I use my computer and computer systems and blockchain networks, and share that workflow process with as many people as possible. I'm always down to open up my share screen and start hacking on some code.
Love it, man.
If I could add to that, and that's kind of how the ReFi bootcamp was like thought of, because at the time, you know, at the earlier part of this year, we were getting a lot of demand for what is that we were doing. We were fortunate to be working with really solid resources. And so it was tough to find the resource. So at Longtail, we had been building this token business for 14 months and had created a process. You know, it was kind of our own way, you know, deep rooted. You can see Darren's attachment to nature. They're both rooted out west, so it's natural. And we also have this kind of like research and development ethos at Longtail that then leads into education. So then we ran this pilot program. You know, we had 8 weeks. It was ReFi based. We had 15 cohorts that came, brought their ideas. We then started to make the composability and the Lego pieces that are now working in open finance. We can see it happening and seeing if we could take these designs that exist already, maybe merge them in with some of these ideas that people are coming with. And at the end of the 8 weeks, it was awesome. We had 3 capstone projects, 2 of them went to Gitcoin funding. So it was solid, you know, yeah.
I would love to dive into more some of that. I just want to open up to questions if it's cool, Mike. The purpose of this is really, just give people a way to pick the brains. And if there's examples from the bootcamp you want to bring into it, great. And I mentioned the Bitcoin grant below for the ReFi bootcamp. And yeah, just open it up to anybody here who wants to ask Sean or Mike or Darren anything about, mechanism design, token engineering. The floor is yours, guys. We've got 40 minutes with 3 brilliant minds here. So ask away.
Can I get some examples of some of the projects you've been working on that you're really proud of?
Yeah, Mike, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so we've worked with about, I would say, between like 10 to 12 different projects in various degrees. Some of them were at the early stage of ideation. Some of them were very focused. Like a lot of the work that we did was NFT based, if you can imagine, in the last 14 months. We did some work with doing good. We helped build like a character for a company out of Quebec called Wuxi. So yeah, there's been some progress, and again, some of these partners that we're working with didn't work out. We had a partner that we were working with that was trying to tokenize real estate, and that project ran into some regulation hurdles, which was still a great learning in a sense, like, because we're all like, we're all kind of like paving a road and driving on it at the same time. So it's like we have to, you know, test this stuff out, and some things work and some things don't. And even in like open finance, we saw a whole collapsing of the mechanisms that didn't work. This, outrageous returns. And then there's some that we're working on now that are still, we're partnering with an AI based company that's trying to help users narrow down what they should pay for an asset when they're about to make a transaction. So that's a really cool kind of utilization of some of the work that Sean's done in AI and data science to try to help users have a more positive experience, because as you know, the UI UX is pretty tough in Web3. I mean, it's nailed pretty good in Web2, but no one's really spent a lot of luxury time making a wicked front end, but it is what it is. I hope that answers your question. And Sean, I don't know if you want to add.
Yeah, I'll jump in at a really high level. Like, what are the general sort of high level different categories that we've worked on? So we've had a couple gaming projects, like Mike mentioned, Wuxi was one of our core. So we built sort of a modeling engine to to model the Wuxi ecosystem, the gaming dynamics of that. So that was pretty fun. We've had some venue and concert ticketing projects. We worked with a group called AAA on that one. Mike could speak more about that.
Inverter, Sean, is
the proposal inverter. Yeah, so on a high level, it's sort of some entertainment, gaming, and music ticketing, and then just some pure like DAO tooling, collaborative tools. We've worked quite a bit with both the Token Engineering Commons and Prime DAO, and specifically on a project called the Proposal Inverter, which is a way to there's this general DAO template of having a treasury accessible through proposals. The core data structures are like DAOs, proposals, and contributors. But the proposal inverter is meant to turn that on its head, where you actually get projects independent of any DAO, and a project can link into multiple DAOs to get funding. So it's this DAO to DAO collaboration mindset, where if you have one proposal that would actually benefit multiple DAOs, then the proposal inverter is meant to be this mechanism that can basically create one proposal that can get posted on multiple DAOs, and then the funding can be routed to the project, and then it builds in some accountability measures like milestones and payments. So that's a really cool project that we're excited about.
And then it's a super sweet I think we're actually bring those guys in to talk on one of those office hours at some point.
They got a brilliant team. Definitely.
Totally. Hey, what's up, River Zero, Jeremy? Didn't know if anybody else had questions. I feel like that was a good overview of some of the projects you guys are working on. Feel free, just jump in, unmute yourselves, and ask.
Darren might want to talk a little bit about the more pure ecological. I mean, we got to work with the Fungi Perfecti team under Paul Stamets in collaboration on a project that's now called Mycelial Earth. And that was a really fun early stage. We were involved at the very, very early stages of open design. So designing NFT ecosystems. Ultimately, I don't know if everyone's familiar with this story, but Paul Stamets has discovered the connection between bees and fungus. So there's bee colony collapse disorder, right? So bee populations are disappearing around the world. And Paul Stamets identified this relationship between the bees and this red polypore mushroom that grows on trees. And the bees consume the sugars that are produced by that mushroom, and it activates their immune system. It acts as their immune system. There's two particular types of viruses, the deformed wing virus and the Lake Sinai virus. And it was, I think one of those was a difference of 98%. You know, when the bees are in contact with this mushroom, 98% of them are not affected. Or there's a 98% less infection rate from this virus. And then the other one is about 50% reduction in infection rate. So what Paul Stamets is trying to do is make these bee feeders that can be distributed with the polypore mushroom solution, and bee feeders can be distributed around the world, and they can be used to rebuild bee populations. And then you can get crazy with it and start to think like, oh, okay, if we're distributing devices all around the world, there's a lot of implications there. First, like, what's the carbon footprint? Like, what are we making these out of, and how are we distributing them around the planet? My perspective there is like 3D printing is the best, because then you don't have to do any distribution. But also, can we turn these devices into little data centers and build like a mesh network? What kind of IoT play could we do if we're distributing bee feeder, like 1 billion bee feeders all around the world? Could they also be device networks that provide Wi-Fi or power? And can we create an incentive network through token technology where people, because these bee feeders will need to be refilled with the solution over time, and if there's a bee feeder at the top of a mountain, Can someone get paid 20 fungi tokens to go fill that up with the mycelial solution? So that was a really fun project.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and Darren, do you want to speak a little bit more about the pure ecological stuff? Or also, I don't want to take up too much time if there's a lot more questions.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if there's more questions, but I could just mention that like the Century project, you know, yeah, like I said, like it's basically about like conserving old growth forests. And the idea there is like you would have an NFT that represents the forest as like a whole ecosystem, you know, so it's like, and the idea is that you're accounting for the, you know, multi-dimensional types of value that are not being accounted for, and then, you know, turning those into sources of revenue, kind of like payments as ecosystem for ecosystem services. You know, the challenge is that, you know, currently we have markets for carbon, but there's not really markets that exist for these other types of value for, you know, like water regulation and biodiversity. And so there's a bit of a need to kind of like cultivate those markets and to kind of, yeah, like actually create those markets because they don't really exist yet. So that's part of the challenge. But yeah, I also just kind of wanted to throw an idea out there that like, you know, like a lot of ReFi is about like protecting these ecosystems, and it's about like environmentalism and things like that. And personally, I get a lot of my inspiration for designing token systems from these natural ecosystems where you can observe these principles of living systems, like, you know, robust circulation, right? And that's kind of a principle that we can engineer into our tokenomics, where we're thinking about like, okay, how are the tokens circulating, and like where is the like value? Is it like kind of like accruing, and is it pooling, or is it being like distributed? And so that's kind of where I get some of my inspiration, is just from actually looking at these ecosystems that we're trying to protect, and just looking at the principles by which they're able to kind of regenerate and thrive.
Super cool. Yeah, I love kind of that higher level principle approach of how you guys approach token engineering. Curious if any other founders in the group have questions for Darren or Mike or Sean. Utkar, feel free, my friend, unmute yourself and ask. Go for it.
Yeah, so great talk, guys. What I'm curious about is when someone approaches you with a brief as to what they want, what's your internal design process like? Like, how do you break it down, and how do you like structure it? How do you take it forward? Because I think even in the ReFi space, a lot of people have a lot of different intentions and motivations and goals. And what we've been finding is that everyone like needs to figure their own process out. So what is like the mental framework that they can follow to take this forward?
I think Mike, you want to take that one? LTF process.
Yeah, no, we've had to develop a mechanism of how to engage with, say, someone like yourself who has an idea, right? And so knowing the capacity of what you can do and what your team is able to do is important. So, you know, we try to stay inside our lane and really try to work with the partner to determine what it is they're doing. Some folks come with us with a full detailed design already that's in Excel, and they can't do anything like robust. So they turn it over to, you know, these Python guys that can take some of the modeling that you might have already done and then like stress test it into different scenarios, because you need to, if you have a token design and you want to release it, then you got to know what's going to happen when it's released, right? And so what are the possibilities, you know? Then it depends about what it is. Some folks come to us and say, actually, we want you to design the token. And again, I'm a huge fan of like not having to reinvent the wheel. Like, one of the things that we've kind of observed is, you know, like attention is money. So you can, by design, look at a protocol in open finance and discern trust by the amount of dollars that are invested behind that protocol. How else would you have that much folks pushing assets to a protocol if there's not this layer of trust? So then you say to yourself, okay, can you look at that existing token design and it takes some stuff out of it that maybe might fit your project. Again, I don't know if that helps answer your question, and Sean, maybe you could add to that, but that's kind of
thanks, Mike. That's very accurate at a high level. But in a more concrete way, we have a standard process for onboarding clients. We have this 9-step process. I think I'll just share this image. We have a little snapshot of our process. I just posted in the Founders Circle chat in Discord. So what that is it starts with a connection. We get a lead. We set up a discovery meeting. We do a 1-hour meeting with a client to just ask as many questions as we can and get the pitch of the protocol. What are they working on? What are they doing? Get to know each other. And then the post-discovery process is we go away. They go away with all the information we give them, and we go away understanding what they're trying to achieve. And we work together to create a statement of work. It's kind of like an MOU. No, it's a statement of work. It's sort of a simple contract for what we want to provide, and then what resources we need in order to be able to do that. So we create that statement of work, a very simple contract, basically. We hand that over to clients. If it's accepted, we all sign it, and we get started. Now, step number 6 there, development. That could be expanded into the whole development process. But essentially, we run like a weekly iterative feedback loop with our clients. So we get an idea of their needs. What do they need modeled, or what kind of questions do they want answered? And when the project starts, we come up with a strategic roadmap on how we're going to answer those questions, or how we're going to model what they want to see. And we just strive to have progress every week, or you could call it product every week. So we will meet with the client once a week, and we want to be able to illuminate further their need, what they're looking for, and be in this iterative feedback loop of directional incremental improvement. And usually it's about a 6-week. Our standard is about a 6-week process with clients. So after about 6 weeks of iteration, we try to ship something that meets the needs that they came to our team for.
But it doesn't have to be. Like, we've done projects that are 2 weeks. We've done ones that have lasted like 4 months, in a sense. So it's really, it's your project. If you want us to help you, we know what we can do. And it's really about the partner and us trying to help the partner get to where they want to be.
I remember something, Darren, you shared with me, which is like, well, what is the end that you want to facilitate? Starting with the end in mind. I really liked that, from like a really simple, okay, this entire system is designed to create what specific end and outcome. I thought that was a really astute observation. So yeah, thanks, Utkarsh. I was thinking similarly around process and just kind of how it works, and love the idea of building these more robust models in Python. I've built however many financial models in Excel. And you're very right, like they're not going to take many dimensions into account, and they're pretty fragile systems. Curious if anyone else has questions. There's a lot to get into here, and yeah.
Funny joke, John. That's one of the things that we look out for. If you were in the discovery call and you say Excel, we know we can help you.
I'd be really curious, because like, let's say deep token engineering, incentive design, etc., to me is a little bit maybe in my blind spot for the context of ReFi. And I wonder what all of your perspective is on the importance of token design and incentive design in the context of ReFi. Because I feel like there's a bit of a split that kind of goes on there. And yeah, that'd be really curious to hear.
Yeah, I'd love to touch on. Okay. I'd love to touch on that a little bit. I wonder if Darren, do you want to open that up, or I can?
I was just gonna say, I think you should mention that what you're talking about yesterday about like incentive landscapes.
Totally.
I have some feedback, Sean, after too, if you want.
Yeah. So we were Darren and I. We both live in Victoria, British Columbia, and Canada here. So we were hanging out yesterday, and we were reviewing the old, the OG, the Token Engineering Academy. They have a 3-hour video on bonding curves where they interview about 10 different people building on bonding curves. This is from 2019, so pretty early, but you can find in that video about halfway through, Jeff Emmett from Block Science and from the Common Stack, he gives a presentation on designing incentive landscapes, or what you could call incentive topology. And if you can map the behavior, sort of what we call the action space of your environment, what are all the possible actions that any player can take in your environment? So that, you know, it might be your Discord server. Okay, people can post chats or they can start calls, you know, that's sort of an action space. But what's really cool about token engineering is that on chain, when it comes to smart contracts, the action space is really well defined. You know exactly how someone can interact with the token system. Like if you go read the ERC20 standard, or if you look up the reference implementation on OpenZeppelin, there's a standard interface, right? There's a set number of functions. You can get someone's balance, you can send tokens, you can approve a send, and there's like a set number of actions you can take on a token protocol. And on any protocol, there's a well-defined interface. That's like the super cool thing about blockchain. So you can grab that action space and you can build a little simulation around it. And then you can program you could have agents in your simulation that are sort of poking your chain in a different way and executing all these actions, making all these transactions. And you can start to map out kind of the inputs and the outputs for anyone coming from machine learning or with machine learning domain knowledge. Machine learning is just f of x equals y, right? It's like you have x and you have y, and you want to learn the f. It's all function interpolation. That's like what all of machine learning is. And so that's what we want to do, is think about x as the input, as like what's the action space? What are the boundaries of play? It's like we're designing video games, right? And you have to actually make the level, the walls of the level, and then you say, okay, Mario can jump or he can like run super fast. So given the bounds of the environment and the action space that the players can engage in, the modeling and simulation then allows you to explore the boundary conditions. Like if we had 1,000 agents all taking random actions, you can see what would happen through a simulation, or you can start to design more complex behaviors into these agents and explore that. So I'm kind of talking about two things here: the incentive topology, mapping the incentive topology of how we want people to behave. So the example that Jeff Emmett gives is in this action space, you might have over here is just profit seeking, sort of selfish, extractive profit seeking. And over here is contributions, a desire to contribute. So this person just wants profit for themselves. This person just wants to contribute to the DAO. And then if you can visualize the incentive landscapes, you want to have a curve that goes downwards. You can imagine a ball rolling down a hill towards that point of contribution. And it's a way that we can apply engineering practices to design these topologies. It's incentive engineering, so it's getting people to behave in the way that we want them to behave, and blockchain is a great enabler of that.
Maximilian, here's another way to look at it. So what does this innovation do? This innovation allows us to quantify things. It's a ledger. So regenerative is an asset, but it's not quantified in a sense. It's like the reward system. Every single thing you interact has a theoretical reward program already there, just not activated. You know, you have, like in Canada, Tim Hortons rewards, you have McDonald's rewards, you have Air Miles rewards, you have Shoppers Drug Mart rewards, you have, so all these rewards are just activated. Where do they come from? Well, it's from the interaction of the users, the exchange. It's supposed to provide some value. So is there a way that, you know, you can provide a system where you can activate a reward for this regenerative domain that you're trying to hone in on. Because we have so many examples in open finance. I mean, an APY is a reward. Like, do you know what I mean? I hope that
Super
answers your
interesting.
question.
I love those metaphors, and I think it really helps illustrate how important boundaries are and the kind of white hat, black hat. In order to understand what people can do, you have to also understand what it looks like for people to cheat, and kind of taking these different perspectives, almost scenario modeling, but bringing them to life with more complex models that can simulate different outcomes is super fascinating. And I have a particular question, which is like, what are the most common mistakes that you see people make when engineering token systems? I can think of the last year and the number of projects which have launched with great promise and sometimes failed to deliver the true impact. Like, what are the things that you see people doing where you're like, hey, if you're going to design a token, don't do this stuff or don't take this approach? Anything that comes up there?
First thing, John, realistic expectations. Like, you know what I mean, of what your ecosystem or design is going to produce, right? Like, we can use the traditional world as the barometer, right? Like, because again, the innovation has attacked finance because it's the lowest hanging fruit. So you have that space as a way to look and see what has been done. And you've seen innovations in open finance, for example, like with Olympus, with this whole bringing the concept of bonding to open finance, but it came with a really destructive experience for users. So, it was unrealistic, I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, that's something we talk about in our team. Getting 2000% APY on a system, it's a fishy smell. It's like 2000% APY. It just probably isn't sustainable even before you break down all the mathematics and all the modeling. So yeah, using like the traditional world, the world that we're emerging out of, traditional financial rails, yeah, as a benchmark, and saying okay, maybe we can 10x that, maybe we can 100x efficiency. I look at something like the Ethereum blockchain versus a traditional bank, and just in general payment processing, yeah, I think it's 100x more sort of efficient. But anyways, trying to not take too much of a quantum leap out of how the world already exists in reality, and make more incremental strides. Another thing I wanted to add is the teams that embrace decentralization tend to do better. It's really hard if you're a founder and you have a really good idea, or maybe you're building some awesome tech, it's scary to throw that into the world and invite the world to build it with you, and to sort of release and let go of your idea into a decentralized, almost like anarchy sort of environment where you're just going to let the internet pick it up with you and build along with you. That can be a very scary thing. And there's a pattern that I've seen in founders that don't end up going down the decentralization route, and those projects end up having more difficulties. They move slower and they have a higher fail rate. I think decentralization can be scary, especially if you're a founder and you're in love with your idea and you want to maybe maintain some control over it. But decentralization is just one of the most powerful things in this space. It's why a lot of us are here, and it's why a lot of these technologies work and are resilient and they take off. So Yeah, it's a bit of a dichotomy, and it doesn't have to be extreme. It's not like decentralize absolutely everything always and give away everything today to the commons. You know, you still need a house and a car maybe, and but yeah, decentralization is a path to scalability in this field for sure.
But then, John, it ties back to the whole point of the education. So if you're aware, then maybe you can make some more informed decisions, right? So I think this is why the space needs more building, more education, more understanding, more awareness.
Absolutely. Yeah. So much to go on there. Love this. I'm frantically taking notes at the same time. So thanks guys for this. Any other questions from founders in the space? We've got, say, 7 minutes, maybe two more questions if we can be succinct. Anyone, feel free to unmute.
A generic question about how you could imagine to collaborate with LTF so that projects get maybe token model consulting or support or something like this, because we tried during the summer to actually work with Longtail Financial, and basically due to the high efforts or high costs for token modeling, which is totally understandable. But if you're starting out and your stakeholders are new to all of this, like every coin gets turned twice and triple. So there it would be super interesting if you think of, or if you're planning some collaboration or maybe even some bucket for token modeling and token engineering for ReFi projects in general. Like more to ReFi DAO, but also Sean and others, like, have you thought about, or do you have experience from other buckets like this?
Quickly, I want to touch on that. This is something I've been thinking about very recently, so I might say something that's not completely synced yet with Mike and Darren, but this is something we want to support. This is something I personally want to support. This is why we're on the ReFi DAO network podcast. We have a lot of, we want to contribute to the commons. Ultimately, I think ReFi is extremely important. Regeneration, I like to call it rejuvenation. We can rejuvenate ourselves and we can rejuvenate the planet. So I think this is extremely important, and building in the open and open source tooling is really important. In the history of LTF, we've tried to have a balance between both these things of having our sort of business as usual operation that, you know, we need to get revenue in the door so we can pay our team, but then also having a bit of an open source flavor and open build environment within Longtail Financial. Right now, I think I want to step outside of that and reach out to other organizations and say, okay, let Longtail Financial be a simple little specialized unit. It's basically a business. It's a business that can provide token engineering services. And it doesn't need to do all these other things to save the world. But our team, our Longtail Financial team, as individuals and as an organization, should be reaching out more in collaboration with ReFi DAO, and then myself and Shebnam both have a history of working with the Token Engineering Commons, and I've just been a little bit active in there just recently, trying to get some token engineering initiatives off the ground that some other teammates have started sparking up some great ideas, and so I don't think Longtail Financial, it might not grow into this like super space that hosts all sorts of open token engineering, but I would like to have a bit of a force that, or just build those bridges where our team members are coming into ReFi DAO and coming into the TEC and collaborating on open projects throughout the ecosystem. I don't know if that answers your question, Shebnam, or if Mike or Darren have some commentary. But yeah, more ecosystem collaboration.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you know, your business and you gotta make ends meet, and so I really appreciate and respect that balance. I don't know.
We spend a lot of time on R&D at LTF. Like, there's a lot of time that we are in the community within our like Longtail folks participating, fly in and out of the community. But there's, you know, we were hosting office hours. You know, that was completely.
Yeah. I just want to. That's important to note. Thanks, Mike. We hosted an open community educational space for about a year, twice a week, Tuesday, Thursday, noon to 12:30 Pacific time, and it was a really high impact, high efficient way of sharing domain knowledge, and it was really effective. We basically, most of the Longtail team would just be in an open Discord channel, and some people from the community would hop in, and we would share knowledge and share this kind of thing. That was led by Octopus, our advisor, Octopus, and it's a lot of work to host that for a year. So it's not running right now, but it's something that we'll bring back in the future. So that's a sort of low energy cost way that we can make a contribution to the ecosystem. It's just holding open dialogue spaces.
That's amazing. What a gift. What a gift. One last question here. I think we've got, I love this idea of founders pooling together to maybe, pull some capital to engage. I think there's some technical challenges there, but would love to see people supporting one another. One last question before we close out, and we'll respect all of your guys' time. Anybody feel free. Utkarsh, you have another one, sir?
Yeah, so from whatever you guys have seen up until now, which projects, according to you, have had good tokenomics? Because we see a lot and there's a whole spectrum. So what has stood out? Like, I mean, I feel like going from Bitcoin to one to Olympus on the other.
I'll just.
I can answer, Sean, if you want.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
I mean, the biggest one that you could see that is kind of really taking a grip of open finance is the Curve voting escrow model. Like, I don't know if folks know much about this, and unless you're really participating in open finance, you might not run into this, but this is a really cool design. It merges in governance with incentive, and it's created like this thing called the bribe system, which is such a phenomenal like game theory. So I would put that as like the VE token economics would be like a top that you should pay attention to, at least. I don't know. That would be my take.
Do you want to elaborate just a little bit on how it works? So I'm familiar at a high level, but just for the sake of closing up this conversation.
Sure. So we have, in Curve's case, you have the Curve ecosystem. So if you look at the Curve, they are like amongst the largest when it comes to market making and pools and liquidity and stuff. So they created a choice for the user to say, okay, I could buy the token and then I can hold it, or I can stake it for a certain amount of time, and you can choose. And the exchange for staking, you get a voting token. So you can, and that voting token allows you to take your voting power and vote. And what happens is Curve's emissions are what drives the return for each pool at Curve. So you can imagine all of a sudden this game theory comes into who has the most votes, and then this bribing system came in where people start saying, hey, if I give you some incentive to use your votes to vote on this pool for emissions, you'll earn an extra, I call it like a special dividend. It'd be like, Apple paying out a special one-time dividend. Home Depot does that in America every once in a while. They pay out a one-time dividend, but because it's not normal. Like, you could choose to bribe or you could choose not to. You could choose to use voting escrow tokens or choose not to. So I don't know, John, does it at the highest level, like
Yeah, totally. I think that covers it. And we've actually taken inspiration from that as we're looking at our token system and how to incentivize specific on-chain behaviors. So hopefully we can have a conversation there when we're at that point. But I wanted to just take this chance to say thank you everybody who showed up here. Sean, Darren, Mike, especially. I know you guys have a lot going on and you're working with some super interesting projects. So great to connect with other founders in this space. Where can people connect with you guys? Are you on Twitter? What's the best way to reach out to Longtail?
Discord, you can find me in the Longtail Discord anytime. So right on.
Awesome. Cool.
Thank you,
For those
John. Thank you very
listening on the
much.
YouTube later, we've got Longtail FinTech on Twitter and you can find their Discord there. Thanks again to everyone here for showing and we'll see you guys next week. We've got a session with the folks at We3 Design Studio and product strategy. Thanks so much for your time and look forward to publishing this for those who couldn't make it. Take care, guys.
Cheers,
Thank you,
everyone.
folks.
Thank you, John, for having
Thank you
us.
so
Thanks
much.
everyone for joining. Awesome.
You guys are
Thank you.
awesome. Thanks.
Thank
Cheers
you.
now.
Bye.
Bye.